special. Sometimes I think Eric's kind of been one of the other Latin American players that's pretty consistently top 4. But this guy too, and he's certainly not worth counting out as we are loaded into Blackburn. In the bottom left, we have the blue Zerg player. He is Cham.
In the bottom right for Team Liquid, now going full time back on StarCraft 2, he is Kelazhur. I guess considering how good he was able to get even while finishing off his senior year in university, I mean, it does. I can see why there's still some juice left to actually try and be the best that you possibly can. I mean, Kelazhur was already clawing his way up there in the ranks before he went to university, before he went to the Netherlands, and then it seems like he just had enough innate talent plus perhaps that nice ping to a better practice region, because that's that is honestly what the case is. North America is not used very much as professional practice. It kept them really competitive, and he even made 7K last year, right around the War Chest Team League time, because I remember he actually was that was his appeal. If I had known, I might have picked him up. Maybe next time if you ever get one of those again.
Let us pray. Jess, let us pray on that one. As yeah, Kelazhur's kind of always been, I think, one of those fun players to watch. And I when we talk about a player making that commitment and coming back and investing the time and energy into it, in some degrees, that muscle memory activates real quick when you get back into it full time and you're constantly going at it, you're constantly practicing. You could be a little bit rusty, but it's one of those things that I don't really believe lasts that long if you're putting the time and the energy into it. And think about the, Shopify coming in, right? The weekly cups and all that. A lot more money that you can make if you're able to place in those tournaments or win them, especially. So, I don't dislike it. I think you might as well put your best foot forward on this, the game that you love. And I have to say I probably together cast some crazy series from Kelazhur over the years, and Cham as well. So. I'm just excited about this one. I hope it ends up being close. We've pretty much just had 2-0s the whole entire day in the matches that we've been commentating. So as long as we get a little action, a little back and forth, a little tension, I think I'm going to be more than satisfied with this Terran versus Zerg.
So as we talk about Kelazhur recommitting himself to the StarCraft 2 life, Cham is also doing a bit of it. He hasn't ever retired or said he was prioritizing other things more so, but he's recently gone back to Korea. That is always just a little, it's a hint at the very least that they want to practice StarCraft to the best of their ability. And sometimes, honestly, Korea really is just an awesome country, and it's kind of one of those dual effects. Like, I want to live in Korea and I get to practice a lot. I get no doubt that is another serious commitment that Cham has done here, and as such, he gets great practice, is going to be playing with some of that cross-server issue ping, as Kelazhur is actually in North America. We finally got all of our countries straightened out for this region.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the other nice things about it. I guess the biggest thing, as you mentioned, is the ping, right? I think that obviously if he was able to magically teleport back and just play on a local server for all of the games, that could mitigate some of the issues that could potentially come up. But we'll hope that it doesn't have too much of an impact on the things that happen in the game. It is just worth pointing out as we're still in the online era for our tournaments. But Blackburn, we talk about the way that this map shakes up. We've got that open third base area, a little bit more pressure on Terran side of things, put that pressure on. I wasn't 100% sure because we're starting here. I wasn't sure if Oxide was the correct one, if that was supposed to be second map maybe. But yeah, I was a little bit caught off guard by that. I still think this one's a pretty strong map for Terran though, right? With the direct air access.
It has been attributed as such, and there's definitely a few pushes that just, you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, Terran's frozen right here. But I guess the Zergs are wilder than they look. They actually were able to figure out, how to handle this. So the win rate actually isn't that bad between the two. One of the things that was happening for Zergs is that they were like, yeah, you know what? Roaches are pretty good to kind of combat some of the difficulty of the map. So we see a lot of that. Cham is, in my mind, always more so a roach guy than the lane baneling guy, and he's doing it here on this map. Makes a lot of sense. And as such, I don't think if you're gonna have to let 5 maps in at best of 5, like, yeah, Blackburn's gonna be more preferable than Beckett's, for instance. So
right.
That is the situation here. We did have a 3cc build from Kelazhur with a safety Banshee just to make sure to get anything in the early game covered. A little bit of harassment, also capable with that one Banshee. And then a Viking to harass all the Overlords. Perhaps open up an opportunity through the close by air positions later on.
Yeah, Viking doesn't want to go too deep into that slow zone. It'll be quite hard to get away from the Queen, but we have 1-1 coming in. He's going to get that Overlord and scooch his way on out. But tanks, Marines, and Zombie Grub, I think you said the word of the day here for this map. Anyway, it's roaches, as we have a decent amount of them coming out. Roach speed is being researched, 1-1 with the ranged attack upgrade. And I think that with this third base location, Terrans sometimes put themselves a little too close to the Zerg. And you kind of, you lose a little bit of the, that safety where you talk about the, rush distance. People always talk about rush distance with maps, but you're rarely going to see what's the third to third rush distance? Or what's the Zerg natural to Terran third rush distance? And on Blackburn, it's quite short. So if those roaches are able to overwhelm the Marines in the early game with those low numbers, it's so easy to pump a bunch of them out as a Zerg player. That's what makes these builds strong on this map. I'll reference back to the PTSD from the Maru flashbacks in GSL. If you get caught off guard, if you're not ready for an attack, you can come quite quickly. But these Marines putting on a decent bit of pressure, gets a Queen, gets a couple of the creep tumors out here, could go for another scan. You just don't want to bleed out too much because just look at the production tab. It's roaches all the way down and a couple Ravagers mixed in there too.
I do believe Cham was trying to hide those roaches as long as possible. That's why they didn't go to support the Lings and the Queens. It's not exactly surprising to see a bunch of roaches, but if the Terran doesn't know, they could still be in kind of a default position of like, I gotta drop, I gotta push, which actually is not what you want to do against roaches. You already want to be sieged up, protecting your tanks, perhaps even with bunkers, and that's just not what's happening here. One tank gonna get caught alone, and that is already terrible news for Kelazhur. It gets completely blindsided, backstabs basically. This is a fantastic start for Cham.
I think this is exactly what you want to do on this map. The push itself on the part of Kelazhur seems nice on paper, but his production, his infrastructure is all exposed. A couple of those biles hit the Marines, and look, there are win conditions in StarCraft, and if you're playing versus Terran, one of them is get on the production. These units all trickle out. They don't come out together. They don't warp in a big bunch together. They come out one by one, and these roaches are just going to eat them as they step out of the barracks. And this is looking ugly already. Zombie Grip, 100 supply difference at 8 minutes.
The fact that the roaches get on top of the production really did. It's done. It's over. When that happens, It's over. There was maybe something to do with like a little bit of a base rate. He could have kept your production alive as a Terran, and that's what Kelazhur was thinking as he realized, oh wow, I really misread the situation. But production camping is especially brutal for Terrans. So well done. Cham realizes, a couple things, right? He was able to hide the roaches. I think that's obvious with the way Kelazhur ended up playing that game out. He's able to hide the roaches, both in the fact that he was going for them and where they were going. And then when he realized that he had caught Kelazhur with his pants down, he didn't just kind of like go, oh, great, a tank, and let's hit the third CC. Because if he had left the production going, that game's a lot more interesting. So he just, he went right up to the main, knew exactly what to do. And that is a strong statement to start off a best of 5.
Yes, it is. I realize now my mistake. Because it's a best of 5, I was immediately looking at the last 3 maps like I always do for all the other games we had today. So Oxide is the 3rd map of this series. So my apologies on that. Pennsylvania education, I can't read. But Lightshade for the next map is still going to have those open thirds kind of ish, especially the one outside the natural. So I wonder if we see that aggression come up again. I do believe that regardless of whatever build Cham goes for, Kelazhur is probably going to be thinking a little more conservatively about the way that he uses his Banshee and how far he wants to send it, whether he's going to allow it to die or not. But not that would have stopped that whole entire attack. But I think if he saw it coming, probably would have been a little bit better off without his army being across the map, that is. So we'll just have to wait and see how he responds in game 2. But yeah, Cham with a very strong start, and he knew exactly what to do. He knew it was good on that map. He executed it, I think, about as well as he really could have.
It puts this guy in a bit more of a difficult position than anticipated. In the bottom right, down a game, he is Team Liquid's Kelazhur.
And his opponent in the Northwest, leading the series as the blue Zerg player, he is Cham.
And I'm actually really shocked with how that went down, honestly, Nathanius. Like, we got Kelazhur 2-roxing, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but, you know, it's your map pick against a guy who's known for roaches, and a common response for that map pick for Zergs is, okay, I'm going to roach you. And it just didn't seem like Kelazhur really remembered that, you know? And also the fact that Cham might even rely more so on roaches because they're a little less intensive when it comes to having to handle it with ping. You know, splitting Ling Baneling with Wood of Mine is a lot more difficult when you're dealing with cross-server stuff. So there's just so many reasons, right? And it felt like Kelazhur just had to kind of like punch his own face to wake up. And I hope that is him waking up here as he 2-roxes, because that is a little bit baffling. If Cham's able to take this game, you know, I'm actually like, that's where I'm just convinced that Kelazhur ain't feeling it today, and we get our continued sweep curse, except it's not for the guy that we expect.
Hey, you know what? I'll take that. Honestly, I'll take that. As long as it's not the guy that we all think is going to win, just completely stomping and obliterating, I think I'm still willing to be okay with that. However, 3 bunkers coming up hot. Cham, he has no idea. The drone's coming, you know, it's just coming to mind. That one's going to mind. Now he sees 3 bunkers at the front of his base, and how will he react? There's the Roach Warren booting up. He does already have a geyser. He sees the barracks. So race against time. Just try to get roaches out in the main. Maybe give up the natural. I don't know. What do you think here, Jess?
I think you give up the natural. I don't know if you can get roaches in time into enough roaches or into Ravagers to bust down all 3 bunkers. And then you have to do that, then counterattack, which is going to give Kelazhur a lot of breathing room to get to a factory and defend. This is what we saw yesterday, actually, from Sol, but he was unable to get that 3rd bunker finished, so we didn't see how brutal it could actually look. This game, we see exactly how brutal it is, especially since it was scouted at the latest possible time.
Yeah, it doesn't get too much worse than this. You can go for Ravagers and try to bile down the bunkers from afar. The 3 SCVs being here also makes it a little bit tough to dislodge. You know, that and there being 3 bunkers, obviously worth keeping in mind too. So the lair says YOLO counter-nitus, right? Is that it? That's about all you can really try to do here, I think, for Cham.
Agreed. Which it could work, actually. Kelazhur, so with this build, you push off that gas, helps you afford that 3rd bunker, as well as the 3rd SCV having to leave to build that bunker. Could make this, you know, a tad more economical if he'd also get a CC immediately, but I think Kelazhur realizes, like, he has to get a factory as fast as possible, so he's trying to. It's still slower than a lot of other 2-rax versions, so this is the scariest moment for Kelazhur.
Yeah, at best. Well, the tech lab should be finishing if he immediately builds it. It'll be probably done around the time that the Nidus worm begins in his base. So the idea or hope of trying to have anything like tanks out for this is quite far away. The starport begins, and there is a 2nd command center. So maybe opportunity's knocking. There it is. The worm has begun to tunnel its subterranean claws through the vast expanse of this map. Will enough come out of it to turn the tides, or will it even finish it? I think it will, but what's it going to get done? Maybe.
No.
Will it though? Nope. Okay. Yeah.
That's usually it.
There's Mambo number 2 up in the natural.
That's true. Let's see if we get the Mambo number 5. I don't think we will.
If we get that far, this game has gone to hell in a handbasket.
I will say that Kelazhur did have to delay the start of his tank because he did pull the SCVs to stop the Nidus Worm, so that thing's only 30% done. Hippo doesn't get repaired either, and suddenly Cham's second Nidus Worm actually looking so damn promising. None of the bunkers are finished either. One just barely might, but there's no Marines to put in it.
Oh,
there's nothing to put in them.
They're all dead. All the Marines are dead. They're trying to run back. Okay, there you go. You got a bunker with a Marine in it and all of the SCVs. But the other, I actually finished another Nidus in the back of Kelazhur's base. So that siege tank comes out. Roaches walk up, say, well met. And Cham takes the second game. I almost said Clem there. That Team Liquid jersey confused me, blinded me. But hot damn.
Okay, yeah. Then I'm convinced it's going to be a 3-0. Like this Cham.
it's inevitable.
Yeah, he's just going to continue to streak. You know, we were all like, well, Kelazhur might get the 3-0 because that's not because of Cham, yes or no, just like it's a cursed day. But Cham's coming in here so, I mean, I want to say he's playing so damn well, but I do have to, again, just be like, oh, Kelazhur, like, ooh, things were, they were doable there, you know?
That's just, it's time for me to start making these references again, Jess. He was so far down. He had to go 80 yards on the last play of the game, and he made it. He somehow did it. He just chucked the ball, and the Nidus Worm managed to catch it right inside of Kelazhur's base. Not a scenario where, yeah, no, honestly, I'm still kind of mind blown. If you deny the first Nidus, it's almost always like, I couldn't possibly lose now because if they build another, I just go after that. And if they build outside my base, then I have bunkers or a tank or something. But I think you said it best with the pacing of this build. He didn't really set himself up for as quick of a follow-up as other Terrans who do these proxy barracks builds. They didn't follow up as fast as they do. And didn't even have that bunker started until the Nidus Worm was basically finishing in the natural. So just a couple of head scratchers on that one. That was definitely a frustrating game for sure on Kelazhur's part.
Absolutely. You still got to look at that, even though you are tight on the budget when you do that build and you don't really want a one base, you do want to fit in your own natural command center. There are still moments there that if he had just been a little bit quicker to the gun, if he could pulled the SCVs to repair the bunker, that would have finished repair the wall, that would have finished the bunker, the Marines would have gotten in, that there is already a huge difference. You are feeling, probably very frustrated as Kelazhur, already down 0-2 to this guy in the bottom left of Oxide. He's Cham.
And his opponent in the Northeast, the red Terran player representing Team Liquid, he is Kelazhur.
I don't think Cham was really that much of an underdog coming in here. We know how good of a player he can be, but the most recent history did kind of point to it being, certainly more sided with Kelazhur. But with the way this best of 5 is going, it's, I want to say it's exactly what an underdog wants to have happen. Kind of the surprise punch for the first game, the swift jab in the second, and then you tie it up nice with a bow at the end with the gut punch, however you can. And that momentum just continues to accelerate through each individual game so that the third game you can go for the gut punch. You can get Kelazhur to get knocked over. It just feels almost inevitable with how swift the previous 2 games are. Totally on board now of Kelazhur having to do something really good to stop this momentum because it is going strong for Cham.
Yeah, Cham's got to be feeling like $1 million right now. And I think that you make a really good point. I mean, these are the kind of situations where a player can, go mental boom, and then all of a sudden, everything that they were normally capable of doing becomes just a little bit harder to do. It becomes just a little bit harder to focus and keep your eye on the prize. You feel like, the possibilities are just so slim. You got to win 3 games in a row against somebody who's basically just clowned on you these last 2 games with those pushes. Because honestly, both of them were preventable by scouting in some way. The barracks, thing, proxying your barracks and then being open to the Nidus. I can kind of see that a little bit more. But what Kelazhur needs to do is he needs to be aware. He needs to be very deliberate with his moves, and he kind of needs to watch his own back a little bit, because he keeps getting caught with these aggressive plays on these counterattacks or backstabs, what have you. It has been an absolutely brutal 2 games for a Terran player.
Really got to be afraid of Cham going for the Roach attack, because even if for Blackburn, for instance, even if Kelazhur saw that coming a mile away, it still can be difficult to hold against and actually play out to a degree that, the Zerg can't kind of macro out of it. So it's also just a style. It's not just like only a 1-1 all in. So first, I think Kelazhur has to be afraid of the 1-1 attack on Oxide, and I think at least a safety Banshee is in order, if not actually still going into cloaked Banshees. And then he has to actually do it so well that, again, Cham doesn't get to kind of macro out of it and say, all right, like, on to the Lurkers. It has to all entirely do with momentum. It feels like Cham is the better player because of how brutal the previous games were. But Cham actually, surprising me, perhaps not going to be playing it on the nose, gets a Baneling Nest here.
Yeah, if all you want to do is just try and play your A game because you have a 2-game cushion now, I don't even mind that, especially because you have to consider that Kelazhur might be thinking about the possibility of a quick 1-2 coming at him. And honestly, that could have worked still, because, your boy went crazy fast 3rd command center with this build as well. It's not like Kelazhur has been going for something that's super middle of the road. The Banshee I still like, as long as he doesn't lose it, right? You have to think about where the value in that Banshee comes from. If you're going to do that poke and not get cloak, you shouldn't. I don't know. I really like it when some of the Terrans just kind of patrol it outside where that 3rd is, or one of the other avenues that the Zerg might send units down the side. Just having that map awareness, having that vision is super, super important for being able to make the right plays and not get caught, which is that's been the whole story of this series.
We are on the Western server, so Cham's getting a little bit better connection, and that also might encourage him to try and play outside of Roaches, despite it being another map that was kind of popular for it. So Ling Baneling with mutas, assumed from this lair, might be a surprise. It might be a way that Kelazhur's not anticipating playing, but he hasn't set himself up poorly against it. I also think that Cham is a little, wary of a Hellbat push. He saw that it was a Hellion-based opener, although which one he's not entirely sure. So he's not getting a perfect game macro-wise, right? He is taking these precautions that are ultimately unnecessary. But nonetheless, I think that his momentum still carrying through. There is the Spire. Confirmation on that. Now Kelazhur needs to get confirmation on that.
Yeah, it's a very straightforward kind of setup from Cham, right? There's nothing here that really stands out as like, oh yeah, he's doing something crazy. He's just trying to try to play his macro game. I don't mind that at all. He's got to be feeling good. That's a good place to have that Banshee right over that spot where a lot of Zerg players try to take that base. He's going to get his 3rd up now. And as long as you don't throw away all the Hellions too quickly, the Zerglings don't have that same level of, okay, I'll just run across the map and poke you, because the Banshee's watching one of the avenues, the Hellions are kind of camping the other. So it makes it a little bit trickier, makes it a little bit easier for Kelazhur to get that expansion secured, as he's got his 1-1 a little bit ahead of time as well, right? It's almost halfway. He's kind of get up there, at least it's a quarter. Evolution Chambers just finished for Cham as the Hellions and Reaper continue to poke. Reaper goes down, but the Spire's coming out. And I guess this could be a decisive moment still, Zombie Grub, if these Hellions are routed and he's able to get some Mutalisks out, perhaps unseen, straight over there. We could see some early poke damage done if he's not going to have any turrets, I believe, and we got to be careful about where those Marines are positioned too.
Kelazhur doesn't know 100% that it's a Spire. He saw that there was a Baneling Nest, but he could be thinking, oh, that was defensive, or it's deception, or it could just be like Baneling as a focus, and then later down the line maybe a Hive, right? Because these are all options that Zerg has. To actually confirm the Spire would have been a lot nicer. He's also not got missile turrets or the wall up, so the Lings flood on in. Perfect timing as Cham saw the army leave. This is going to cause chaos at the very least. Keep Kelazhur back at home and then make him go across, and the mutas come. Then he has to come home again. It's all momentum breaking for this specific push. And if Kelazhur commits to it, I mean, he's not even going to be hitting a base here. You know, he's pushing into a non-existent base, which means he's got to go for the throat, go for the jugular, the natural, and I just don't think that's actually possible.
He basically, you're right, he needs to win the game right here if he's just going to try and make this push, but he's not even on top of the base. The Lings get the surround as the tank siege on creep. 1 hit point on that bad boy. 14 SCVs dead. The natural's been forfeit. I think he might have a turret at the third in the main base now, but your income is still limited to those 2 expansions that you have, and all the reinforcement units that he would have wanted to send out kind of got, you know, sidetracked there too. So no siege tanks, just Marines versus a whole lot of Ling, Bane, Muta, and Bane being the key word here without much to deal with them. Cham is going to be able to keep pushing on over. Can he break this? I guess we're about to see. He's going to keep on moving up. The 1 siege tank up front gets focused by the Mutas, and the Lings and Banes continue to find ground. Zombie Grub
tanks the last stand of the splash and is going to go down. Some Marines do live, and that'll thwart the end of the game, I guess. But it's getting closer every time Cham comes forward with his units. Another bad moment for Kelazhur. You don't want to be on the defensive in this situation. This is not Cham necessarily all-inning. He is totally forgoing upgrades. So it is dedicated from the Zerg in that department, but he is on 4 bases, going up to 5, 77 drones. The only problem is his upgrades. So still wouldn't call that an all-in, right? So yeah. Kelazhur having nothing to be said on the other side of the map, not really, is a terrible sign for Terran.
At some point, I think for a brief moment, Kelazhur could have like 2-2 versus unupgraded Lings before that 1-1 finishes, and you know, as far behind as a Terran may ever seem, if you have 3 orbital commands, you don't actually even need to have SCVs sometimes. The dream is always alive. I do think that Cham missed a slight opportunity with that push because the Mutas had everything up on the natural, but some of those Lings I think could have been sent to that third base mineral line, as I think, what was it, like 5 or 6 mules got dropped right in front of them. I'm not sure that Cham was able to see it if you don't have vision of the landing spot, but regardless, he's still feeling pretty nice. As long as the upgrades don't come back to bite him. I mean, he's got a massive supply lead. The economy's looking great. He's getting his 5th base up. And Kelazhur, well, he's spending a little bit of time getting back up to that 3-base saturation.
He's about to, I think, win this game. You know, a little supply block. He built 8 overlords to compensate. It's a lot. But I think he really is, you know, he is in a position where if he just maxes out, as long as 1 Widowmine doesn't kill 30 Banelings, I think he can win. And he's going to go for it. Kelazhur finding about, 30% of his army alone. The rest of it was actually moving over to the left, so this is just disjointed to begin with for the Terran. It's Kelazhur's last stand in this best of 5. He's already lost 2 games. He's about to lose the 3rd by the looks of things as Banelings crash into the Marines, even off of creep. It doesn't matter. Kelazhur is about to get O3'd by our boy Cham. Cham is in Korea as well. This was an amazing performance.
Yeah, he's going to burst that bunker down. The repair is not enough, and the 3rd will be forfeit. The Zerglings dancing. GG is called. Cham takes the 3-0 over.